Welcome back to the Money Pig podcast, brought to you by Goodwin Investment Advisory, where our mission is to lead people to financial peace, independence, and generosity. I'm your host, Reid Trego, and today on the show, we're joined by certified financial planner Justin Pitcock for a discussion about what we do not recommend. Justin, great to have you here.
Good day, everyone.
Good day, sir. It's always fun to have you here. So we want to talk about the things we don't recommend. We talk about all the time the things we do recommend, right? But there's some things like I see you guys work with clients and I sit in client meetings or whatever, and like there's certain things we recommend very frequently, but there are a lot of things out there that I hear about or you see on late night TV ads or cable TV ads, right? Then I'm like, why don't we recommend those things? So I want to talk about some of that stuff. How about it?
Let's go.
All right, good. So first of all, we want to just say, as an investment advisory, what we really do is work in the world of securities, okay? And people kind of know what securities are, but it's essentially stocks and bonds. So the actual definition, like when I took the Series 65,
yes,
investment securities are a category of securities, tradable financial assets such as equities or fixed income instruments, bonds. Right? Stocks or bonds that are purchased with the intention of holding them for investment.
For investment.
That's right.
And I would like to add that it pays income. Okay.
Okay.
People will think of things that don't pay income as an investment, but I'd kind of like to draw the line there and have you reevaluate. Is it really an investment if it doesn't pay income, or is that just speculation that somebody's willing to pay a higher price?
Oh, yeah. Because if you buy something just going like a Beanie Baby years ago, I don't know if you were alive during this, but people had Beanie Babies. They're like, I'm going to buy up all these Beanie Babies because someday this is going to be like a precious metal.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't pay income.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Okay, good. So anyway, like I was saying, we see a lot of situations. We make a lot of recommendations, but I want to talk about these things that we don't frequently recommend, and I'm going to list them out, and then you just tell me why.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, here we go. The first one, and I hear this all the time. I actually have my own personal story about it, is annuities.
Oh gosh, the salespeople are so good at sales. I should be taking notes.
So let me tell you what I know about them, because I know that you put your money in a thing, and it rises with the stock market, but it'll never go down. And then you get your money for the rest of your life.
Or does it?
But this is what I know, because this is what I have heard.
There's different types of annuities. There's, equity indexed, there's fixed rate, annuities. There's annuities that are tied to some sort of index. So it's going to go up and down as, for example, like the S&P 500 goes up or down. Some annuities would allow you to have actually an investment portfolio inside of that insurance wrapper.
Yeah.
But an annuity is an insurance product. And we need to think about, well, what is insurance for? It's for insuring a risk. You buy an auto policy to, protect you financially if you're in a car accident so that you can get your car fixed, or if it's your fault, fix somebody else's car and pay for medical bills, right? Mm-hmm. So what is the risk here? What risk are you insuring by buying an annuity? It's the risk that you might run out of money. And for good savers, most of our clients, that's not one of their risks. They are working with a financial professional. They are intentional about saving money, making good investments so that they will have more than enough in retirement. And every now and then we do run into a scenario where an annuity makes sense. For example, maybe a widow is left with $200,000. She's 70 years old. She's concerned that she's not going to have enough for the rest of her lifetime, because she used to, before her husband passed away, they had two Social Security incomes. Now they only have the highest Social Security income, so they lost some income there. Now she's having to withdraw more out of that IRA or whatever, and she's concerned that's just not going to be enough. Okay, well, she can buy an annuity and ensure that she's not going to run out of money, and it can pay a little bit higher distribution than we would feel comfortable with a stock and bond portfolio, because we don't know how long she's going to live.
Right.
So that's a risk that she can transfer to the insurance company.
Okay.
So for her, it makes sense. For the average person we work with, it is a sales trap where the salesperson is probably making 6 to 8% commission on whatever they sell you.
Ooh.
So
That's a lot. Good for them.
Yeah, for $100,000, that's $6,000 to $8,000 commission. If you're investing $1 million, $60,000 to $80,000 commission, one paycheck for this guy.
Okay.
So you need to know how that person gets paid. We're not paid based on commissions here, but insurance people are. Folks that sell annuities are paid on a commission.
Okay. So I think that this is probably very common, but like annuities and something else we're going to talk about here in a minute, these are things that have salespeople. They're probably appropriate in certain circumstances. The problem is the salespeople will sell them in non-suitable circumstances.
Yes.
So they're just a little aggressive. Okay. So it's good to have get advice from someone who's not selling it and who's not incentivized for you to buy it.
Right.
Okay.
In variable annuities, they'll say, hey, this is an investment. There's an underlying portfolio you can pick from this list of funds, like mutual funds that we do consider are, of being investments. But the fees inside of annuity, because there's a life insurance, there's a mortality expense, there's other fees that are layered on, a lot of times adding up to be 2 or 3%. So if your underlying investments that are inside of that annuity insurance wrapper, let's say they make 6% rate of return and you have 3% fees, your annuity's at best going to grow at like an average of 3% per year. So annuities will likely underperform drastically because first of all, the annuities limit, like a variable annuity limits what you can invest in. And they're not going to let you necessarily invest in higher risk things that have a higher growth potential.
Got it.
So you're going to be able to choose from a watered down list. They've got high fees on top of that. You would likely just be better off to have a savings account on your own and buy a whole life. Not a whole life, a term policy. We'll talk about whole life.
We'll get to that. Okay.
Yep.
So I like to be transparent here, and I have an annuity story.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I know. My wife worked first several years of our marriage. Then we have a child. She just decides to stay home. She has a 401k. Okay. So I have a buddy who's gotten into the investment world with a large company. And
are you okay saying the name of that company?
Well, no, because I don't remember if it was American Express Advisors or Merrill Lynch Advisors. So it was one of those two.
I haven't heard of American Express. So.
I think it was old. It was a long time ago. Okay. Yeah, there was some. Okay, so anyway, so he's like, here's what you should do. You should take that 401k and put it in an annuity. It's what I did with my wife's 401k because my wife and his wife work together.
Gotcha.
And so, well, it made sense for him to do it with his wife's, right? He made a ton of money off of that. But when doing it for my wife, you don't take, what do you call it? Protected retirement assets and put them inside an annuity. You're taking on a bunch of fees you don't have to do. That should have just rolled into an IRA. It was a very expensive decision because it probably sat there for 6 or 7 years.
Barely grew at all.
I don't even know. But it cost me a bunch of money, like 10% of it or maybe more to get out. And that was in 2008 when I came to GIA as a client. Yes. I still remember talking to Tim about it going, hey, I need to get out of this. He's like, I'm sorry. It's going to cost you. But yeah, you probably should just get out of it. Just be done with it.
It's going to barely grow in most situations. Okay. There's annuity products range in quality. So, but in most situations, it's going to underperform what the investments could otherwise do because of the higher fees that are in an annuity. And there's that big upfront commission that the salesperson receives. And that's why there's this lockup period, right? And well, you can get out early, but you're going to pay dearly for it. And sometimes that surrender charge is up to about 10%. Mm-hmm. So you're, losing 10% if you get out within up to like 10 years. So that's how long it takes for the insurance company to make up that commission that they paid the salesperson. And that's why there's this surrender period.
Yeah, and that 10% is very fresh in my mind and this happened like over 20 years ago. It was like shortly after my daughter was born, I think we ended up doing this. So, okay.
Yep,
awesome.
Don't fall into that trap.
Welcome. Yeah, don't do it. And welcome to the annuity show.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to the next thing we typically don't recommend. This also has very good salespeople who sell a product that is probably appropriate for some people. Unfortunately, they sell it to too many people for whom it's not. suitable or appropriate. And that's for whole life insurance.
Yes, yes. So it's playing on the fear that, later on in your older years, you're not going to be able to buy term insurance, so you need to buy insurance that stays with you. And it's an investment. It's got a savings account. You're saving money for yourself in this whole life policy.
Sure.
So what a whole life policy is basically a savings account. So that's true. And term life. So every premium payment that you make, a little bit of it goes to the savings account, a little bit of it goes to pay your whole life, or pay the basically it's a term life, annually renewing term life.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you're young and you buy this policy, most of your money's going to the savings account, and a little bit's paying for that term life insurance.
Makes sense, because when you're young and you buy term, it's cheap.
It's cheap.
Okay.
As you get older, more of your premium goes to pay for the life insurance part. Less goes to the savings. And eventually it gets to this part, this stage where the cost of insurance is more than the premium. So now it starts pulling out of that savings account to pay the difference, because it's a level premium, but the life insurance component's more expensive now than the premium, and it starts drawing down your savings. Now, the death benefit's still there, so when you pass away, the beneficiary will get that money, but you're paying dearly for it. And meanwhile, that savings account's only getting you like 1% to 3%. I think the average is less than 3%. So why don't you, instead of giving the insurance company all of your money, buy term and invest the difference?
Yes. And the other thing I think about this is why this is so awesome, because I always joke that I need Legos and like Monopoly money to understand things, but you just break it down and you explain it to me like I'm simple. I am. But what happens too with term, you buy it when you're maybe have a child or whenever. That's when people do it, right? And they buy a 20-year policy. Because you're going to have somebody dependent on you for about 20 years, maybe a couple more, 25, 30, whatever you want to do. Depends when you start buying it, because that affects the price forever.
Right.
And at some point, you don't need insurance anymore, because there's nobody actually reliant on you. And hopefully over those 20 to 30 years, you've done some planning so that you've also been able to take care of any spouse needs.
That's the key. And people can get themselves in trouble where they don't save the difference. But again, thinking about what is insurance for, it's to offset a risk, and term life insurance is to offset the risk that your family loses your income. Mm-hmm. So your dependents, your spouse, your kids, whatever debts that you have, we got to think about those things. How are we going to take care of that? And so earlier on in life, when you've got a big mortgage, you've got kids that need to get, help through college, your spouse wouldn't have the resources they need to take care of the kids, the family. They don't have the retirement savings built up yet, maybe the income potential. So there's a dollar amount that you would need in order to offset the loss of your income. Mm-hmm. And as a general good rule of thumb, Dave Ramsey's spot on with this 10 times your income general recommendation. But you could go through the math. If you were gone and your family lost your income, how much would they need? And we can go through that math with you to help you understand what you need. Again, we don't sell insurance products or anything, but we could help you do like a needs analysis.
That's right. We're a fee-only investment advisory, so we don't sell any products here. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, and I love that. Like figuring out how much you need, the 10x your income is a good idea, but figuring out all your debts, the income that would need to be replaced. Yep. There's a monetary value on a stay-at-home mom, because if she's not there, you got to pay for childcare.
Super valuable.
Yeah. So amazing. Okay, another thing I see that we don't recommend typically. Now, but I hear this is really, really important from the late night cable TV ads. Precious metals, gold and silver. You have to have it because of what's going to happen.
Oh man,
all the bad things are coming. Your dollar's going to crash. The economy's going to crash. So you got to have
gold. Is it really? The sky's been falling since I was born. Apparently, we get asked this all the time. Should I buy some gold? I'm really concerned about the dollar crashing. And especially lately, we went through this COVID and our government printed a ton of money, that we ran up the deficit. And so now there's the dollar initially was really strong. All right. And it's kind of gone closer to its long-term average. And the media has like spun this off as the dollar's crashing, it's falling apart. That is not true, guys. It's still above its long-term average, but it's come back down from where it was, a year or two ago. So how this ties in, I think there's a lot of fear out there right now that people don't want dollars, and they're looking for a solution. And like you said, there's ads everywhere to sell gold and silver.
But the inflation doesn't hurt. All the inflation, that just adds to the fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the people that are selling this are kind of like insurance folks, typically making a large commission, probably 5 to 15%. I don't know that number for sure. I mean, it's not free to go buy gold. You're going to be paying a commission on the buy and the sell. Mm-hmm. And when we look at the historical increase in value for gold, it's increased at the rate of inflation. And short term, there are spikes and dips, but when you smooth it all out and look at a long piece of history, gold has increased at the rate of inflation.
So it's just a store of value.
It's a store
not
of value over the long term. It doesn't pay you income. I don't think of it as an investment, because you're not going to make money off of gold. When you sell it, guess what? You get to pay tax on any gains that you have.
True.
But guess what? Over that period of time, the dollar has probably deflated. So you've stored your wealth there, and then you just get to pay tax on that later. I'd rather put my money somewhere like equities, who are able to adapt to the changing landscape, who are able to raise prices and are able to keep up with inflation. Equities have historically been one of the best places to put your money to fight against inflation.
Absolutely.
Gold can be a store of wealth. It's expensive to get in and out of. It's expensive to store unless you put it in your safe at home, but it doesn't pay you income, and it's not going to outpace inflation.
So it is more legitimate than Beanie Babies,
yes.
but kind of has the same feel. It's a speculation.
It's a speculation.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That if you think you're going to, the price is going to shoot up over the short term, that's speculation. Over the long term, you're just going to see the value of your gold go up at the rate of inflation. If you're still insistent on owning gold, we tell folks the best way to do that is probably through coins and store them in your safe at home. You don't need to pay somebody to store your gold. Then it's a cost center for you. It's not, it's not making you money at all. So
all right. And again, there's probably situations where it makes sense. It's not a never. It's just not as much as you would think.
You're not going to create wealth by buying gold.
Right. Okay. I got another one for you that I do not hear us recommend much, but a lot of people want to do this. All cryptocurrencies.
Right. Oof. So
give me some Bitcoin.
All right. So my views,
let's go.
May be different than other folks here.
Oh, that's true. This is not representative necessarily of GIA.
But I personally think that cryptocurrency is a waste of resources. So actually, just last night I was talking with one of my buddies who's works for the federal government. He's in law enforcement. He helps fight international crimes. And we were talking about cryptocurrency, and so anyways, the conversation went to like, well, what is it for? And I was kind of talking about my case that you'll never use cryptocurrency to go to the store and buy your groceries. And, like my buddy agrees, like just the way it works, it's not economically feasible for you to use cryptocurrency to go buy groceries because there's a cost to verify every transaction. The last number I read was that to verify a Bitcoin transaction cost about $50 in electricity. So you're not paying that to transact, but the people who are mining the crypto are getting paid to verify your transactions.
Okay.
That's how miners make money. They are getting paid to verify transactions, and they're burning a ton of electricity to do that.
You're arguing against everything we've ever heard, that we are democratizing money and we are creating a currency that will help Venezuelans with 200% insurance, inflation. It'll help stabilize the world's economies.
So
and you're saying that there's so much inefficiency in cryptocurrencies that this is just not going to work.
It could be used to transfer large sums of money. It'll never get used for regular transactions. The way that the system works, that it just is not economically feasible.
I don't know. I think you can buy a Tesla with a Bitcoin.
It's a larger transaction.
Okay.
There's a cost to it, So, like, for example, Visa can verify a transaction for a fraction of a penny.
Yep.
Okay. But for a Bitcoin transaction, this was over a year ago, so it's different now.
Yep.
But $50 per transaction, that's ridiculous.
It is.
And so again, this conversation with my buddy, he works in law enforcement, and he was talking about, it's like how Russia gets around sanctions. They can kind of enforce transactions in certain currencies.
What's their currency, like the ruble or something?
The ruble, right?
Yeah.
But they can use cryptocurrency to kind of navigate these sanctions. Criminals use cryptocurrency. So what, like, the main users are, in my view, criminals.
Oh my!
Cryptocurrency is enabling crime, and that's like what my buddy was sharing with me. You may feel different about it. You may think that it's this fight against the government here. It doesn't have an economic purpose to me, and it's pure speculation. If for those who think that, gosh, crypto is going to be the new way, I feel like that's just a speculation that somebody else is going to place a higher value on it than you are. I'll give you a recent example.
Okay.
So,
and I love this, by the way, because I love just hearing you think through and explain stuff. So,
all right,
keep going. This is beautiful.
So, a year and a half or so ago, right? Like, Bitcoin was at 60,000. It plummeted down to 20, right? We've kind of had this build back up. It almost made it to 50. I think it was like 48,000 or something like that.
Like a few weeks ago.
And
we're in recently. January of 2024. Yep.
Yeah. And so there was this build up because, and kind of the hype recently has been, it's going to get approved. There's going to be Bitcoin ETFs now, right?
Oh,
exchange traded funds that you can go buy in your IRA, your Roth, and your brokerage account.
For people who don't know, an ETF is like kind of like a mutual fund. It's a basket of cryptocurrencies in this
Bitcoin.
point. Okay.
Yep. So there's this hype. People that are in the know about this, like, gosh, yeah. So there's going to be a higher demand for Bitcoin because we know these Bitcoin products that's going to make it easy for people to buy Bitcoin are about to get approved. So they bought in early.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So there was this buildup. Bitcoin almost hit 48,000, or it did. I think it was a little over 48,000. Right. Right after the Bitcoin ETFs got approved, and there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, it's like, I don't know the exact number, but maybe like 8 or 10 or something like that. Right after they approved, Bitcoin has dropped 16% in value. Boom. Just like that. And it's because there's all this hype, and now it's reached that moment. They left the bag hanging with the uneducated retail investor who thought, now I can finally go buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the people who kind of knew that was coming bought in early, and they sold. They sold when the event happened. So anyways, it's speculative. It doesn't pay income. If you can figure out how to pay income, maybe you want to mine cryptocurrency. That would be a way to create income. But again, I don't think there's a long-term use case it's not going to pan out to be what everybody thinks it is.
So what's so interesting about this, it's not like you're just critical of cryptocurrencies. I mean, just listen to him, folks. He follows this along. He knows it was at around 60. He knows it crashed down to whatever. You're not just making stuff up here. You actually do watch this stuff, which is also interesting because I don't know how you possibly read all the stuff you do in the time you have, but you manage. So you actually keep up with it, and that's good.
I think it's just speculation. You think of different bubbles that we've had when there's a lot of hype. Is typically when the shoe's about to drop, and whether it was the real estate bubble in 2008 or the .com. Like there's been bubbles throughout history. They typically have a spike, they crash, they may try to reemerge, but things that don't have an economic value don't make it.
Yeah.
And so, maybe another use case comes up. I don't know, but I don't see crypto being anything that's used for regular, like daily transactions in people's lives.
Yeah.
So I think it's way overvalued. Maybe it is kind of a use case for, large transactions, or like you said, maybe it can help certain countries like Venezuela. But largely, I think it's getting used to do bad things. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, we're going to continue this with the next episode because we've got a couple more things, and then we want to talk about what we typically do recommend. But we're kind of out of time on today's show. So, Justin, you'll come back, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And as advisors, we manage and rebalance portfolios, but the unique value is that we work to understand our clients' individual goals so we can have these types of planning conversations and make recommendations and make not to do recommendations with our clients, because all these decisions are indeed so personal and unique to each individual. Thanks again for being with us, Justin.
Yeah, happy to.
All right.
The Money Pick podcast is hosted by Reid Trego, a financial advisor at Goodwin Investment Advisory. This podcast is intended to share information and perspectives, but should not be interpreted as legal, financial, or tax advice. The opinions shared by participants are not necessarily endorsed by the company. Goodwin Investment Advisory is regulated by the SEC, and the company operates in compliance with applicable securities laws and regulations.